Last game at the RDS in its current form. Last possible appearance for Rhys Ruddock. 200 appearance for Dave Heffernan for Connacht. Oh, and it's also the last game of the regular season for both of these teams. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. So for Leinster, only Osborne was retained from the Champions Cup starting 15. Sam Prendergast gets a start at 10 and faces his older brother Keane for the first time at provincial level. It's not the strong side that maybe, Leo Cullen was talking about picking. It's a decent team all the same. It's what I call the Leinster URC team for the most part. The guys that are there week in, week out, especially when, the Ireland guys are in Ireland camp or wherever. So, it's a decent team, but maybe not as strong as he kind of hinted at earlier on. Leinster, they got lots of early ball. There's a few errors in there. You can see, maybe this team now are a little bit rusty, having most of them at least have not played in a couple of weeks. Then Keane Prendergast, he gets over the ball to win a penalty after good work from Hawkshaw in defence. And like for Connacht, even though, it wasn't a brilliant team performance from them, there were still good individual performances. The guys who kind of stood out this season, the likes of Prendergast, Hawkshaw, Oliver there in that back row as well, Murray in the second row. I thought Blade did really well at 9 as well, and a few others in there too. Cordero as well. His first start for Connacht after such a long layoff with injury, and then we get Conor Oliver. He's on the wrong side, and Leinster, they have a penalty. They go up to the line into the 22. There's a knock on from Blade as Leinster are attacking. You might have, hint of maybe could be deliberate, but no, it's no penalty. It is just a genuine knock on. So scrum to Leinster. Scrum collapses, but the ref calls to use it. Conan then picks up from the base and he shows great strength to get over despite the attentions of two Connacht defenders. Prendergast converts the try for 7 points to 0. And Conan showing that he should be a genuine option really for Leinster in terms of being a starter, because the level that he's playing at for Leinster this year for me is maybe does merit getting at least a try or a go there, maybe in the 8th shirt rather than coming off the bench in most of the big games. But then Leinster, they win a scrum penalty. Beelum adjudged to be driving across the scrum, and that one Leinster goes to the corner, but then they knock on and Connacht can kick clear. And Leinster, they had a lot of chances early on. You could see again that rustiness there. A lot of kind of set piece moves not quite going well for them, and not just early on either. It was kind of throughout the game too. But Connacht weren't brilliant either in their set piece, honestly. But then we have another penalty for Leinster. They go back to the corner. This time the line-out goes well. They attack off the top. Frawley with some nice hands gets Prendergast onto the outside, and then he puts Jimmy O'Brien over to score. Prendergast adds the extras for 14-0, and you can see there when Leinster are firing that they can still deliver, and that's the thing with them, is that when a move works like that, it doesn't really matter too much who the personnel are. A lot of them, they still have the skills, even if they're not maybe first choice. But you can see with these guys who are just below, or a lot of them are just below the top team, they still have the skills to deliver at times. It's just about this year. We talked about, like in my ranty video, about how the attack doesn't seem to be as anywhere near as fluid this year. This was a moment that kind of belied that, where they look fluid, and when they do that, they look so dangerous, and they just cut Connacht apart there. And people as well, I think after seeing that try and seeing the overall performance from Prendergast, I think we'll be calling for him to be installed as Leinster's number 10. Personally, I'd like to see him given a go there at least. I don't think he's seeing enough game time there. And for me, I think Al Coyne brought it up in the comments on that ranty video where the, the problems that Leinster have at 10. It was something I wanted to include in the video. I looked at my list after I'd recorded the video and realized there was a section where I missed like 3 or 4 points that I wanted to bring up, and 10 was part of that, and that whole idea that I was talking about where it seems to be difficult for players who coming through to actually get game time with the main players. And for me, 10 is a problem there because you got Ross Byrne and Harry Byrne who've been there for a long time, who Ross Byrne was decent last year, but still you never really, there's a reason why I think Crowley emerged as the standout guy for 10, because he has a higher ceiling than either of the Burns, and it looks like Prendergast is the next guy there, but it's all about do you stick the guy in now, and then what do you do with the two Burns? You can't just say, right, you two lads now are gone to backup, and then are they going to look at? I don't think they're going to shift them on. It doesn't look like there's any appetite for shifting either of them on to a different province either to make room for that. So it's kind of a weird one. You have two tens there who are who are capped for Ireland. One of them heavily involved in with Ireland for the last couple of years. The other one kind of on the fringe really of the in the Ireland squad, but not really considered. I don't think with his elder brother and Crowley there considered as a genuine option really for starting at 10. And then you have Frawley there as well, who wants to play 10, but is being used as a utility back on the bench for most of the big games. And then you have Prendergast coming in behind them all, who seems to be the guy that maybe has the highest ceiling of each of them. But for me, it doesn't seem like there's much planning around how they're actually going to manage that situation and get to the point where Prendergast is getting the game time that he needs with the better players around them to develop. Anyway, back to the game. So then we have Kelleher. He takes a quick throw to the front of the line out, gets it back, and then bursts into 22. Ruddock with a lovely pass then to Prendergast, and he puts a rampaging Conan through a hole. Conan offloads to Frawley, and he goes over to score. And it was something like Leinster, they tried it a few times in the game. I think this is the only time that actually worked out, where they were going to the front, because I think it was Bernard Jackman was talking about in the commentary that the on the Connacht side, their receiver always had his back to the front of the line out, and I saw something there, but it only worked once, but it came up with a try. And something I'd like to say as well is, like, a lot of guys on comms, especially when it's RTE covering things. Now this would have been the TG Carr commentary, I'm pretty sure, but when it's RTE, like, some of the guys in comms, especially like the main commentator, are annoying, and some of the other guys that with them are annoying too. But I have to say, for Bernard Jackman, he's someone that I like listening to. Other people will have other opinions on him, but I always find him pretty knowledgeable on stuff, and always a decent listen there. So for me, at least, it was good to have him on there. But it's converted for 21 points to 0. And then we kind of have a bit of a lull in the game scoring wise, but Connacht start to come into it a little bit, but before that, Jack Carty not really having his best game up to this point, kicks it out in the full. He did spot space over on the right wing in behind that Leinster defence, but just misjudged the kick. Connacht then begin to apply more pressure to Leinster from here, trying to find holes. But like Leinster as well, we're being maybe a little bit overcomplicated with things as well, offloading and stuff, and allowing Connacht to turn the ball over, and Connacht do that, and then it's kicked downfield. Foley then lucky not to get pinged for a knock on because he clearly knocked it on in his own 22, so it should have been a scrum to Connacht, but Connacht get the line out on the edge of the 22. Then they attack, try to attack through the middle, but they're getting no real change out of Leinster defence. So they go wide and have a little more success there. And earlier as well in the first half, we saw a few times where there was space out there for them. One of them, there was a very clear forward pass when they were trying to exploit that space. But you could see that that's where Connacht were going to get any joy attacking the Leinster defence. The momentum then gets halted, and I was just thinking, I wrote it down before it happened. A kick is probably coming. Then the kick does come from Carty. It's gathered by Russell on the edge of the 22, and then Leinster, they counter-attack and come forward from there. We then have a better kick from Blade, goes in behind Leinster, are forced to collect it. It's Russell collects it, and as he's trying to turn around to kick clear, he actually steps on the line. So Connacht have a line out in the Leinster 22. They go to the maul. Doesn't go to plan, but they do retain possession, but not the momentum that they should have had with clean ball. And then they get halted again, but and they try to go off that. Once the maul gets halted, they try to break off, but Maloney gets over the ball and wins a penalty. And thought he had a superb game for Leinster tonight as well. In this team that was playing, so there's so many unsung heroes of Leinster turning out. Leinster then they look to spread the ball in their own 22. Pass from Conan goes to ground. Looked like maybe running lines got mixed up or whatever because there was nobody there to receive the pass. I think he was expecting maybe Scott Penny to be there, but he wasn't. Connacht then they send it to the wit. Keane Prendergast, he runs over Foley and looks like he's going to get into the corner, but then Tommy O'Brien just comes back with an absolutely amazing covering tackle, dislodges the ball. Leinster then win a penalty at the subsequent scrum. They clear it. We're at half time, 21-0. Great start from Leinster, but Connacht definitely coming back into the game more in the final 10 minutes of the half. Into the second half then, Leinster on attack early in that second half, but some great covering defence denies Russell in the corner. Connacht then immediately undo that good work by playing it across their own line and knocking it on. Attacking 5-metre scrum for Leinster. Ruddock then goes off to a standing ovation. What a servant for Leinster. He got some caps for Ireland, never really established himself as kind of first choice for Ireland, but when he was called upon, I thought he did well. And for Leinster as well, it's tough for a guy I think like him that was just below maybe that level that you see a lot of the other Leinster guys on that were kind of came through around the same time as him that went on to get so many honours with Ireland. But he was brilliant for Leinster. He knew for the most part that he was going to be in that kind of URC team rather than the Champions Cup team, other than getting chances through injury, etc. But he always performed well when he was there, and he often as well he's obviously in the leadership group. He'd be captaining that URC team when the kind of the club captains or wherever were being rested. Um, so yeah, really great career with Leinster, for him, and he always put in a decent shift. It was rare to really see him play a bad game in blue. So thank you for all of your service. And the same goes to any of the players. Like a lot of players today, for Connacht or for Leinster, would have been playing their last games for the provinces, or at least possibly playing their last games, depending on, for Leinster at least, selection. For Connacht, definitely, because their season is over after this one. Leinster, though, they then they go off the back of that scrum, a couple of drives towards the line. Edburn then looks to have maybe gone over. We have a Timo check on field. His decision is no try. After looking at a few angles, it's inconclusive. Referee thinks maybe we're going to restart with a goal line dropout, but Timo says no, everything I've seen looks to be short, so therefore we're restarting with a 5 metre scrum to Leinster instead. And then Leinster, they look to spread it, but good pressure from Connacht, coming up hard in defence, and there's knock on from Russell. Edburn then he goes off to a great reception as well. I believe he's moving to Cardiff, and he'll be a great addition for them there too. Connacht then with a period of possession, but they're not really making much progress. It's kind of like they make some decent carries, like the Ralston's in there, Prendergast as well, Conor Oliver involved. But every time they make some ground, they lose it almost immediately. And then Jimmy O'Brien turns the ball over well. Then Michael Mill puts a lovely kick downfield. Good work then from Darren Murray. Turns the ball over in the maul, 5 metres from his own line. But then the clearance kick is sliced, and Leinster have another go from a line out. Prendergast then, Keane that is, he's told not to play the ball at the back of a Leinster ruck, but just can't resist it, and it's a penalty to Leinster. And it feels like, with so much pressure from Leinster, the bonus point is coming. It's just a matter of when it's going to come. Leinster, though, they overcomplicate things in the line-out. A couple of offloads between the forwards, in the line-out, trying to move the point of contact, and then Milne ends up actually juggling the ball. He retains it, but he's more worried about making sure he doesn't drop the ball than having impact in his drive. Connacht then looked to have turned it over through, I think it was Blade maybe turned it over, but then it comes back on the Leinster side. But then Keane Prendergast gets over it to win a penalty for them, and just some great defence there from Connacht, and kind of helped by Leinster, making things a little more complex than maybe they needed to be. Then a look at a dangerous clear out from Michael Alaltoa on Blade. It's low level of danger, so he gets a yellow card and deserved a yellow card as well as that. Blade then, he's actually off for a second HIA of the evening because he went for one in the first half as well. And that was where, I think, was it maybe Jimmy O'Brien accidentally hit him with an elbow in the head or something like that. I'm pretty sure that he definitely got an elbow to the head, but I'm pretty sure was it Tommy O'Brien? It was one of the O'Briens. I think it might have been Tommy O'Brien actually. So from here then, Clarkson, he's back on at the next scrum because Alalatoa is in the bin, and Clarkson is another one I'd love to see getting more game time. With Alalatoa leaving now, we probably will next year. Jimmy O'Brien then with lovely behind the back offload, as Leinster attack up the left, but the attack peters out because they kick through and Connacht gather it, but we come back for a penalty. Leinster goes to the corner, go to the maul. Sheehan on for the bench. He peels off the maul, shrugs off an attempted tackle from Conor Oliver, and he's over for the bonus point try. Harry Byrne then misses the conversion. It's 26 points to nil. Oliver and Jennings then combine out in the tram lines. Basically Oliver, like, he gets through a gap, gives it to Jennings. Jennings puts on the gas, back inside to Oliver. He then puts in a nice fend and puts Riley over to score, converted for 26 points to 3. Hawkshaw then goes on a burst up the middle, but Riley can't hold the offload. Jimmy O'Brien did really well just to get in there in the passing channel and make it really difficult, and force that knock on. Then have a bit of kick tennis. Then Sam Prendergast just puts a lovely long pass out to find Jimmy O'Brien on the wing. He counters, spots a gap between Jennings and Hawkshaw, and then he has the pace to go through and score. It's converted by Prendergast for 33-7, and that was our full-time score. And, Connacht's inconsistent season ends with a bit of a whimper, really, in that one. So we're going to have a look at the stats from the game. I've pulled them up here now. So tries, 5 tries to 1. So Leinster, not looking brilliant, but at times they did click, and when they clicked, they did look at the levels that we've seen them being at for the last few seasons, but it hasn't been as easy for them really to get to those levels this year. Possession then 40-60, but Connacht not really doing all that much with their possession. They spent a lot of time really, either between the two 10-meter lines, or starting at kind of around the edge of the Leinster 22 and then being pushed back. Clean breaks then 11-12. Defenders beaten 16-26. So again, Connacht, they look like they're making little bits, space, half breaks, etc. But every time, as I said, they'd make a break and then they'd get pushed back, and then they'd have to try and do it all over again. Offloads then 12-8. Defense territory 45%-55. So Connacht playing more of the game in the Leinster half, but again, and most of it was kind of outside that 22 rather than in the red zone. Number of tackles 152-76. Missed tackles 26-14. Tackle success 85 for Leinster is kind of normally where we expect them to be. They're not the best first up tacklers by any stretch of the imagination. 84 for Connacht is actually a bit lower than you maybe expect them to be. Normally expect Connacht to be in that kind of 85 where Leinster were, up to 87 kind of level. So just a little bit below that. Turnovers 1 then, 5 for Leinster, 9 for Connacht, and it was Cian Prendergast really coming up with a lot of those for them as well. Kicking then, 2 kicks retained from Leinster and 3 from Connacht. Kicking didn't really have a big a big effect on the game, as we've seen in a lot of games this year. We've seen a lot of kind of cross kicks and stuff. We didn't see that much in this one. We saw a few attempts but didn't really come off. And for me, the kick that really mattered was like the loose one by Connacht that then led to Jimmy O'Brien's second try. Penalties then, 6 for Leinster and 9 for Connacht. On to individuals. Then 2 tries for Jimmy O'Brien. Most carries 6 for Jack Conan, 9 for Conor Oliver. Great chip from him. Clean breaks then, 2 for Jimmy O'Brien, 3 for Shane Jennings. And he's someone that if they could get the ball into his hands a little bit more in space, maybe they could have, because there was always the chance out there wide for them. Defenders beaten then, 4 for Jimmy O'Brien, 9 for David Hawkshaw, who had a really decent game. As I said, there were lots of kind of individual performances for Connacht, but not really collective one. Meters then, Rob Russell 33 for Leinster, 42 for Hawkshaw for Connacht, and then offloads 2 for Jamie Osborne and 2 for Conor Oliver. Number of tackles, Brian Deeney with 18 for Leinster, kind of a quiet, decent shift from him. Dave Heffernan with 12 for Connacht on his 200 appearance. Massive congratulations from him. They said like he's only the 8th player to reach that figure. And then turnovers 1, Tommy O'Brien with 2, Cian Prendergast with 3 for Connacht. Okay, so let's just quickly talk about each of the teams. So Connacht, they had some success when they went that width, but they didn't really do enough, and didn't do it enough, and didn't make the most of the breaks that came from it either. They did well, I thought, to prevent Leinster from scoring for about 40 minutes after the third try, but didn't really offer much themselves in attack. Cordero, though, did hint at what might be to come next season if he can stay fit. And it feels like there's plenty of work to be done in the off season, and let's hope that they do make a step forward and progress next year. For Leinster, decent performance, especially early in that first half. Went off the boil for a bit. A lot of players had decent performances, but I do wonder how many of them will actually get the chance, if Leinster progress beyond the quarterfinal in the playoffs. Prendergast definitely looked good at 10. I'd love to see him getting a start with the bulk of the Champions Cup team, when they return and have those guys around him. He, for me, he offers more than either of the Burns, and I feel like Frawley is probably going to be on the bench, and number 22 or 23, because he just offers too much cover for to not really do that. But there's that old saying that I think relates to Prendergast very well, is that if you're good enough, you're old enough, and it definitely applies to him. Leinster, they knew it was going to be a home quarter final, like the rest of the top four as well, and now they await other results to see who their opponents are going to be.